can only be attributable to human error.
You're entering Paranormal.
He meddled in things that you people. He meddled in things. He meddled in things.
Where will we go next? This phantom from another time.
No one, Mr. Muller.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hello, I'm Alex Daikaiju.
I'm Jasmine with
I'm Eli Watson.
And we are
Cryptid
Campfire.
woohoo, woohoo, woohoo. And now an intro by Eli Watson.
Okay, well, I've been given the stage. Hello, everyone. Welcome to part 2 of the Loch Ness Monster trilogy.
Dun dun dun. Hi everyone. We're part 2 into our rediscovery of Nessie. I think we mentioned in part 1 that in our very first Cryptid Campfire episode, we talked about Nessie, Ogopogo, and Champ all in the span of a half hour. So we've been righting those wrongs the past few years. We recovered Ogopogo, we recovered Champ. We're doing Nessie, and to set her off with a bang, it's a 3-parter, and it's part 2.
It is. It was not originally supposed to be a 3-part episode. It just happened to turn out that way because of the plethora of information we have at our fingertips now that we did not have during our first episode recording. So yeah, like Alex mentioned, a lot of what we talk about today is going to be corrected information and clarification of things that we brought up in our first episode, with some additional research thrown in there as well. We do have a part 1 to this, so if you haven't listened to that yet, go do that first and then come back to this one. You can listen on your favorite podcast platform if that's not where you are already, or you can also watch us on the Paranormal Network YouTube channel. You can go on there, subscribe, like, comment, get that algorithm working in our favor. And so, yeah, we're going to get into part 2 today. Part 1 was a lot of folklore, kind of history, legends, and that kind of stuff. Today's episode is going to be getting into some more sightings and the modernization of the Loch Ness Monster myth and things like that. And I believe that Eli is going to start us off by talking about something that happened in 1932.
Yeah, so this is kind of taking us from the more mystical past of Nessie into the still mystical present of Nessie. So I guess a big question comes up is like, you know, the way Loch Ness was back in the day, especially prior to 1932, was very different from today. And what I mean by that is there are no reports of the Loch Ness Monster out on the loch prior to 1932. A lot of people think the reason being is that there was only ever one road to and around Loch Ness from like 1715 to 1932. So almost like 200 years. It ran through the hills of the loch, and it came. So it didn't go anywhere close to the water, but when it did, it was blocked off by trees in heavily forested areas of the loch. So at no point when you were on that road could you actually see the loch.
So it's like more of an anti-scenery route.
Yeah, I guess, you know.
There's nothing. It's like, oh, we're driving by Loch Ness, and oh, look, trees, followed by shrubs, bushes, and more trees.
Well, it's interesting because the loch wasn't really like a tourist destination for a long time. And I think part of the reason that it became a tourist destination, like in a lot of cases with cryptids, is because of the monster itself. So a new road began to be constructed in 1932 that allowed people for the first time visiting the loch to see the entire expanse of the loch while they were driving on the road.
Mhm.
And during the construction of this road, workers used blasting dynamite. They had to blow up some of the rocks and stuff to create a pathway. And that is a sort of, a lot of people point to that and say like, oh, this is why 1933 was such a big year for Nessie, because all the blasting caused them to surface, I guess. You
Mhm.
know, it just stirred things up, you know.
Mhm.
But I don't know. You can't, causation is not correlation, or is it the other way around?
You never know.
Correlation is not causation. That's correct. Yeah. Wait.
Let me take this opportunity to thank y'all for watching Cryptid Campfire and ask that if you enjoy our shows, please subscribe to our channel right now. Like this video and click on the bell so you can be notified each time a new video goes up. And now, back to the show.
Shall we consult the Google?
Yeah, what's Google say? Hey, Google, just how do you pave the road to hell?
Mm.
Good intentions?
Whoa.
The phrase is indeed correlation does not imply causation.
That's the one.
I was hoping that you would say, Eli, 1932 was a different kind of year, a different kind of world. It was a world that didn't know it was about to get the spiciest content of 1933. A little gem we like to call King Kong.
I didn't have that in my notes this time.
Well, I mean, 1931, the world experiences Dracula and Frankenstein in the same year. 1932, Scotland starts dive bombing the rocks to make a new road. In 1933, the Loch Ness Monster and King Kong kind of show up. Causation, correlation? I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, just because. Well, I mean, never mind. Great. I'm off to a great start today.
It's okay. It's okay. So that's your segue into 1933, right? This road was built in like 1932, causing this first wave of modern day Nessie sightings. Yes?
Yep.
Cool. And can you tell me who the first modern day Nessie sighting was cited by?
Yeah, Alex Campbell.
No. Okay.
Actually, it was Don Cheadle.
No. All right. So here's where we get into a little bit of damage control. If you listen to our first ever episode released 3 years ago, Eli tells the story of the first modern day Nessie sighting. And I'm really sorry to put you on blast, Eli, but we have to remedy this situation. You were wrong about almost everything you said that day. You were half right and then mostly wrong. So in our original episode, we recounted sorry, what?
I can't be half right, but mostly wrong. I would be only half wrong.
But you kind of are, because here's what happened. So we
Whoa.
recounted.
The edge is out.
And when I say we, I do mean you, Eli, because again, Jasmine and Alex did not have any information about Nessie at all. So when I say we, I mean you. But we recounted the first official modern day sighting as having been made by a water bailiff named Alex Campbell on May 2nd, 1933. That information was only about half right. First of all, it was unclear to us at the time what a water bailiff even was. Why we didn't look it up and find out, I do not know, but I have done so for today. And a water bailiff is simply a law enforcement officer responsible for the policing of bodies of water, such as rivers, lakes, or coasts.
Doesn't Alex say a water cop in the episode?
He does, but he makes the joke that the officer is like beating the water and like it's policing the water itself rather than what's happening on the waters.
Just imagine a British Bobby on the beach smacking the waves as they come in saying, "Oi, you best behave, you."
Oh my god.
Oh, dude, can you picture reality TV show Loch Ness water cops?
I'm already tuned in.
Cool. So Alex Campbell was indeed a water bailiff, but he was also a part-time journalist. So he's the one who actually wrote the article about the first sighting. He's not the one who witnessed it. The witness was actually a woman named Mrs. Aldi McKay and her husband. Also, in our original episode, we said that they were on a road when they saw a dinosaur run across the road with an animal in its mouth. That's also wrong, but there was a couple that did witness that. That story comes later.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
But that comes after what actually happened with Mrs. McKay and her husband on April 14th, 1933. I don't know how many details you guys have or how expansive your version of the story is, but would anybody like to tell that story first?
So here's what I have. A real funny note. I use mostly Wikipedia for this bit, and on Wikipedia it says the article that we're talking about today. The article by Alex Campbell, water bailiff for Loch Ness and part-time journalist. Citation needed. So May 2nd, 1933. There's an article in the Inverness Carrier detailing a sighting that happened on April 15th, 1933. And it was titled Strange Spectacle in Loch Ness.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have, I don't know if this is just a clip of it, but it says, the creature disported itself, rolling and plunging for fully a minute, its body resembling that of a whale, and the water cascading and churning like a simmering cauldron. Soon, however, it disappeared into the boiling mass of foam. Both onlookers confessed that there was something uncanny about the whole thing, for they realized there was no ordinary denizen of the depths, because apart from its enormous size, the beast, in taking the final plunge, sent out waves that were big enough to have been caused by a passing steamer. And with that, Alex Campbell said, I can be a journalist. Look at this, waxing poetic. Hoo-wee. That was
true.
Not to take away, but I was written like a crazy person. Wow. There's just so many.
Well, I learned a new vocabulary word in that article, and that word would be disported. For anybody who doesn't know what that word means, it means to enjoy oneself unrestrainedly / frolic. So Nessie was frolicking in the water.
And I can never talk about the ocean again without boiling masses of foam.
But yeah, that's a direct quote from the article that was written up by this correspondent for the, I also said Inverness, but I think it's Inverness. There's an N in there, Inverness Courier. After they saw that, they waited for about half an hour in hopes that they would see the monster again and that it would surface, but they didn't see it again. Mrs. McKay's husband, who told Alex Campbell the story, and she actually stayed anonymous in the original newspaper report.
I believe they both did.
Yeah. I actually don't even know her husband's name. I didn't find that anywhere.
John.
Yeah. Very original.
Yeah. Hey, they're British. No, they're Scottish. I don't know.
But in a rare interview years later, she described the moment to marine biologist and founder of the Loch Ness Project, Adrian Shine. She said it was black, wet, with the water rolling off of it. And he says it went in a circle round and down. And she apparently yelled at her husband, "Stop the beast," which is interesting. This is, like we've said, regarded as the first modern day sighting, but this article itself even makes mention of previous encounters. So the first line of the article actually reads, Loch Ness has for generations been credited with being the home of a fearsome looking monster, but somehow or another, the water kelpie, as this legendary creature is called, has always been regarded as a myth, if not a joke. And the end of the article states, it will be remembered that a few years ago, a party of Inverness anglers reported that when crossing the loch in a rowing boat, they encountered an unknown creature whose bulk, movements, and the amount of water it displaced at once suggested that it was either a very large seal, a porpoise, or indeed the monster itself. But it should be mentioned that so far as is known, neither seals nor porpoises have ever been known to enter Loch Ness.
Interesting. Going back to the point of them being anonymous when it first came out, the reason being that they were anonymous was because both John McKay and his wife were owners of the local hotel at, and here's a name I cannot pronounce, but I'm going to try, Drum Nod Rocket. And when it came out later that year in 1933 that they were the ones who saw it, they were accused by other papers of the time and people around Loch Ness that they made up the story in order to basically boost tourism to their hotel.
Gotcha.
Which they vehemently denied, of course.
I mean, if you're making up the story, you think it'd be a little more fancy, or at the very least, if you're making up a story, you wouldn't include such an embarrassingly bad grammar as "stop, the beast."
Well, I have one story before we get to our next story.
Real quick, I'll just throw this out there before we move on from McKay's. I don't know how true this is, but the McKay article that was published, that was the first time the word monster was reportedly applied to talking about what was in the Loch Ness.
Oh.
So that's where we get the first, the Loch Ness Monster is coined in this first article about the McKay sighting.
Yeah, and I think that was like the editor's choice. Like, I
Yes.
don't know if Alex Campbell actually used the word monster when he was writing the article.
Yeah, it says some reports it was by Campbell, but some reports also claim that it was coined by the editor Evan Barron. So another mystery. It could have been the overzealous writer, or it could have been the overzealous editor.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
The next
Just
big
like-
event, basically, I have one small snippet to share from June 7th of 1933. This comes from Nick Redfern's book, Nessie. I'm forgetting the subtitle at the moment, but it's called Nessie.
Just Nessie.
Nessie,
Hard to
just
miss.
The Rise of Skywalker.
She's like Prince or Cher.
Nessie. Just Nessie.
See.
So a pilot, an unnamed pilot, we don't have his name, or at least his name was not provided in the book, was flying over the loch near Urquhart Castle in 1933, and he said that he saw below him in the water a silhouette of an alligator-like creature that was, he estimated, 25 feet long and 4 feet wide.
Whoa.
Yeah. Could it be the Loch Ness Monster? Could it be an alligator? I don't know. That's that. So,
Well, thanks for coming. Yeah. Good night.
But then I think the next thing that we're going to talk about is the more clarified version of Nessie supposedly running across the street, being seen on land, which was improperly told as the McKay sighting in our first episode. We're going to talk about Spicer, right?
yeah, dude. Spicer.
He controls the Spicer, controls the universe.
Whoa. Whoa.
I don't actually have very much. I just have a couple sentences. Maybe you guys can fill in the blanks.
Oh.
But apparently in July. So what did we say? McKay sighting happened in what, May or June?
April.
April.
Just kidding.
It was reported in May.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's right.
Didn't you even say the exact date?
Yeah, but I don't remember because
I'm not a mathematical person.
I'm not. But yeah, so that happened in April, and then something else happened in July when another couple claimed to have seen the animal on land. So George Spicer was going for a drive with his wife through the Scottish Highlands, and they saw a large, unfamiliar creature pass in front of their car and then disappear into the nearby loch. They compared it to a dragon or a prehistoric monster, and they described the creature as having a huge body with no limbs and a long neck. The no limbs part is interesting to me. What did you guys get? Did you also get no limbs?
Mm-hmm. They saw no limbs. They say it lurched across the road toward the loch, which was 20 yards away, leaving a trail of broken undergrowth in its wake. So I don't know if it was just like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
like a big fat Tsuchinoko trying to cross the road.
Tsuchinoko, nice callback.
Thank you.
What an ugly looking animal. So I don't know. I'm sorry, I zoned out for a second. I was organizing something that we're going to talk about here later in the episode. I don't want to say soon because I don't know when we're going to get to it. But so I don't know if you guys knew this, but George Spicer was the director of a well-respected tailor's in London.
Did not know that.
Oh,
Yeah, it's called Messrs. Todd House, Reynard and Co.
oh, it sounds official.
Yep.
Right next to the Kingsman tailor shop, I wonder.
Probably not. So him and his wife were actually vacationing in Scotland, and it was their final day of vacation, and their holiday became a nightmare. I'm not sure why it's written like that, but in my notes, I wrote it like that. Anyways, so
You took the creative liberties of taking your notes.
You were channeling your inner Alex Campbell.
yeah, there you go. And so it occurred on 4 p.m.
On
that
4
day.
p.m.
Stop roasting me.
Stick a fork in me. I'm done already. Gosh.
Okay. So they're driving along the road about 600 feet ahead. They see this bizarre looking animal leap in front of them. Spicer offers a description and he says that it's an absolute affront to nature. It's not very descriptive, but it's as you said, it was moving in a jerky way, but they both said that it reminded them of a giant worm. So it's not quite like glitching or like stop and go, but like kind of like a slinking, kind of. And they kept driving at it. And by the time they got to where it had been, it was gone. But the surrounding bushes had been flattened by something large and heavy. They estimated it was about 5 feet in height, gray colored skin. They said it appeared to have been carrying something on its back. Now that is what George Spicer said. That is the actual description. And that has become, it was carrying a deer in its mouth or some whatever wackadoo stuff I said in the first episode or whatever you read on the internet. That is not the description. So
Good to know.
it was not carrying something in its mouth. They didn't say that.
Now, are you pulling from another original article? Because from what I understand, this sighting was also published in the same paper, the Inverness Courier. They have a catalog, an archive on their website, but I couldn't find this article specifically. And I also checked newspapers.com and I couldn't find it. I think newspapers.com might only be US papers though.
I think it is.
So that's probably why I didn't find it. But where did you find what you're reading from?
Nick Redfern's book, Nessie.
Okay, cool.
And he found the original articles and stuff because he quotes from it.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
and I don't think he would lie.
Okay.
All right. So let's just clear that up.
Okay.
We talked about it briefly in the episode, and the very first one is they talked about a prehistoric dinosaur dragging some carcass in its mouth across the
Mhm.
road, and
Yeah.
now it turns out that it didn't have anything in its mouth. What's funny is I used a little bit of Wikipedia to fill in some gaps, and on Wikipedia it says Spencer described it as the nearest approach to a dragon or a prehistoric animal that I have ever seen in my life, as having a long neck which moved up and down in the manner of a scenic railroad. It had an animal in its mouth.
On
And then
Wikipedia?
there's a little citation, number 26. So I say, let me click on that 26. What's the citation?
Don't be Cryptids Wiki.
Is this the Loch Ness Monster? An article by Inverness Courier, August 4th, 1933.
Wait, what?
That's the source, but it's just put there. There's no like little blue link to click on it from the website. It's just so apparently maybe it in the Wen article by the same newspaper that reported the Loch Ness Monster in August that same year said, they covered the Spicer story, and maybe they said it had a monster, a thing in its mouth. Just to add more confusion to the already ridiculous claim.
No, hold on. No.
Like,
hold on.
Because we were talking about it, and I was looking at my notes, and then it had an animal in its mouth. Like, what? No.
Are you trying to debunk this right now, Eli?
I am. I'm going back to the book though.
Yeah.
But hold on. I want to see. I'm gonna read what the book says. All I have in the book here is that oddly, Spicer also said that the monster seemed to be carrying something on its back. He admitted that both he and his wife remained traumatized by the awful sight for weeks. Nothing.
I didn't.
But
maybe the editor added that.
Well, now I'm interested. What does the article say?
I don't know. I tried doing a couple different searches. Like I put different things in quotation marks. I looked on the Inverness website. Like I said, looked on newspapers.com. I couldn't find the original article for the Spicer sighting like I was able to find for the McKay sighting.
Let's see. August 4th, 1933. Aha. This appears to be some sort of transcript. Oh, and there's a sketch.
Whoa.
Let's see.
Where are you looking?
I just typed in Inverness Courier, August 4th, 1933. TeddyBarbier.com. I can link you to it.
Yeah. Can you send the link? We're doing this live, guys.
We're trying
watching us research in real time.
Yeah, it says right here. Mr. Spicer said that it looked like a large prehistoric monster, as he called it, and was carrying a small lamb or some other animal in its mouth.
Whoa.
In quotations, I saw the nearest approach to a dragon or prehistoric animal that I have ever seen in my life.
But you said that's just a transcript? Like someone typed it out?
It looks like it's retyped. Loch Ness Mystery.
Because this has the same title as Campbell's original article, Strange Spectacle on Loch Ness.
Yeah. I don't know. No.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say anymore.
Yeah. I've been watching a lot of Columbo lately, and he always picks up on weird little details to solve the case. And my brain was like, wait a minute.
Wow.
So I don't know. Maybe it did have a lamb. Maybe it had Mary's little lamb in its mouth.
Well, it's interesting because they have this sketch here, which I've found multiple times. This is a sketch by Rupert Gould, who sketched out what the Spicers saw based on their description, and it does not have a lamb in its mouth. So somebody's lying here.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, when we invent time travel, we're going back to 1933. We're gonna short all this out.
Well, either way, by October of 1933, there were a bunch of London newspapers that had sent correspondence to Scotland, and radio programs were talking about the Loch Ness Monster, and it was really starting to be. The hype was real. The hype was real
Mhm, mhm.
in
Mm.
1933. Things were picking up.
Oh yeah. Everyone wanted some of those Nessie burgers. Well, 6 months after the Spicer incident, so I don't know what month that would place that in. November, July,
Six-
July. If we're counting July, okay, don't count July. August, September, October, November, December, January.
So this would be 1934.
I guess so.
Interesting. Okay.
So we're gonna go in the future a little bit, and then I gotta go backwards a little bit. But this is interesting because the Spicers and the McKays were not the only ones to witness Nessie on the road or
Yeah.
from the road. I guess the McKays didn't see it on the road.
Right.
They saw it in the water from the road,
Yes.
but it was also seen on the road again. So this comes from a man named Arthur Grant of Glen Urquhart. Grant was a student veterinarian at the time, and he was riding his motorcycle home at the casual time of 1 a.m. He's a 21-year-old student, so it kind of makes sense, you know.
So
It's a
you
full,
said what, a veterinarian?
yeah, he's a student vet.
Yeah, those guys go pretty wild.
I guess so. So, I mean, he's driving his motorcycle. He's a cool guy. It's a full moon out, super bright. And that's when he sees it like 120 feet in front of him. And he has to slam on his brakes and he almost crashes into it.
Oh.
And so as he's like slamming on his brakes and screeching towards this thing, he sees its head turn and look at him. And he describes it as the typical, the typical way, right? It's got a big bulky body. It's got flippers instead of legs. It's got a thick 6-foot long tail, which he said looked like it could inflict a significant amount of damage. And he estimated that it was somewhere around like 20 feet. And of course, it's got the long neck and a tiny head at the top. And so he almost crashes into it. It bounds across the road and heads towards the loch. That's not where it ends. He chases it on his motorcycle, going off the road and following it down. But then he loses sight of it, hears a large splash into the loch, and knows that it got away. Now, what's interesting is that he has been accused of making this story up because it sounds pretty fantastic, but he didn't report it to the press first, because like him reporting it to the press, okay, that's one thing. Maybe you're making it up to get attention, but instead he reports it to the Edinburgh Veterinarian Society. Now, he's a student vet. He's going to school to become a veterinarian. He reports this fantastical sighting to a veterinarian society. For why? Like for real. Like, if he's doing it just for attention, you wouldn't think he would risk his career over that,
Yeah, that's like what, trying to get a job 101. Don't just go in and start making wild claims on your first day of the job.
Yeah, it's like going to film school. They ask you to turn in the final movie, and then you just submit Pulp Fiction and you replace Tarantino's name with yours. It's like, well, no, this is Pulp Fiction. No,
Yeah,
I directed it.
and you add 2 P's on the back of Pulp.
Pulp. But yeah, I don't know. That to me is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because I got that Grant produced a sketch of the creature that was examined by a zoologist, Maurice Burton, who stated it was consistent with the appearance and behavior of an otter,
Interesting.
which I guess like the otters
Wh-
like run around with giant long necks and tiny heads and look like dinosaurs.
That sentence doesn't make any sense to me. I'm having a hard time comprehending that.
And here we go. Regarding the long size of the creature reported by Grant, it has been suggested that it was a faulty observation due to the poor light conditions.
So you're trying to tell me Grant is the guy on the motorcycle, right? You're trying to tell me that he drew a sketch of what he saw, which he claimed to be a 20-foot creature, and that somebody examined that sketch and said, that's an otter.
Mm-hmm. And what you've described too is very consistent with the behavior of it as well.
I'm so confused. That doesn't make any sense.
I mean,
You're telling me he thinks he saw a sea monster and they're like, oh no, it was dark. You saw an otter.
yeah,
I mean, I know otters are bigger than I thought they were. When I saw one at the aquarium for the first time, I was a little bit taken aback because I was like, I thought they were like these little things that you can just like hold in your hand, but they're actually like pretty big, you know? So like I get that, but a 20-foot sea otter with a long neck and nothing is, it doesn't.
Well, let me ask you, Jasmine, when you saw those otters, did you
Mhm.
feel like their tail could inflict a serious amount of damage?
No.
Well, I don't know what to tell you.
That's it's common otter behavior.
My brain is glitching. I don't see how that makes any sense to say, oh, it was an otter.
Well,
Whatever.
we get to the point where let's just put words, or let's just say, what the hell, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, because this other guy, paleontologist Darren Naish,
Yeah.
I think we've mentioned him before.
Yeah, he's gonna come up in part 3.
Yeah, I think he's a hater because he suggested that Grant may have seen either an otter or a seal and exaggerated his sighting over time. Yeah, sure. Let's just make wild accusations.
Okay.
Here's
I'm gonna say one thing about Darren Naish. Is this controversial? Maybe.
Oh dear.
But no, it's just, so this guy, Darren Naish, he kind of bothers me because he says, hey, I'm open to the existence of cryptids, and then proceeds to just take a crap on literally everything. It's like that, you know what I mean? Like literally everything you will put in front of this guy, he says is fake, is invalid, is made up. The witnesses are unreliable. It's always something, and it's like, so how open to cryptids are you then? Like, if just everything is fake, like, I don't know.
Yeah. So I just, I mean, it happened in 1934. Who are we? But I think this guy is just making it up. This wacky, vet students ran different back in the day. Just making up claims.
Did you have, I think you had one more sighting that you wanted to talk about, Eli, that I don't have notes on.
Yeah.
Before we talk about.
Yeah, before we get to the big one.
Well, not even the big one. There's something that happened in 1933 or which big one are you talking about? You're talking about like the big one, right?
That's what you're talking about, right?
I mean, we've got to talk about the big one, but there's also something that happened in 1933.
Oh.
To talk about.
Yeah.
Don't pish posh that. That's important.
Yeah, I know. It's the supervillain origin story.
Exactly.
It's okay. Okay. Wait, hold on. Just out of curiosity, when did that occur?
1933.
What month, do you know?
December.
Oh, perfect, because this happened in November. All right. So November 12th, 1933. A man named Hugh Gray, employee of the British Aluminum Company.
You can say Illuminati.
What?
Aluminium?
I thought you were going to say Illuminati.
Yes, member of the British Illuminati
Corporation.
Well, with all the crazy stuff we talked about in the first episode, I wouldn't be surprised if there was the Illuminati involved with Loch Ness.
Just wait till you hear what we talk about in part 3. Well, he was near where the river Foyers and Loch Ness come together. And it was noon on November 12th. And after attending a Sunday mass, he went for a walk like he did every Sunday. Well, he was on a bluff, the height of the bluff being 50 feet, and it looked over the loch. And he was standing there looking out over the loch, and he sees a large animal break the surface. And he had a camera with him at the time, and so he photoed it. And then he watched it until it submerged. Now, I will put the image up on the screen.
I'm sorry, I'm still trying to get past the fact that you said he photoed it.
He couldn't have videoed it, Jasmine.
But he photoed it. He didn't
photoed
photograph it. He photoed it.
He photoed it.
Yeah, for people who don't know what that means, photoed means to capture it. Kind of like a Snapchat, but in the 1930s.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you will look what's on the screen, you're looking at the Hugh Gray photograph of 1933.
Oh my God. Stop the beast. Oh, sorry, I felt like I was there in the moment.
That's interesting, actually.
Okay, so it's kind of clear, like it's blurry, obviously, and that's because he described that it was thrashing in the water, like kind of similar to the McKay case. Frolicking, if you will. That's why it kind of ended up blurred like this. Those old-timey cameras weren't so great with
right,
shutter speeds. I don't want to get super technical here, but basically it couldn't capture the image quick enough to where it's super clear.
I will say, looking at this picture, can you tell me like which end is supposed to be where the head is? Because when I'm
about
looking
to get
at
into that.
Okay, cool. Because to me it just looks like a snake in the water.
Yes. So check it. From the left-hand side, you have what they believe to be the tail. And then it leads into the kind of bulbous body in the middle there.
Okay.
They claim that there's 2 appendages on the sides.
I mean, I do see kind of like a shadow.
Well, there's a shadow in the water, but you can kind of like make out they're very small. They stick out and they go into the water. What would be the flippers? So you have one towards the base where the tail and the body meet, and another one more towards the kind of supposed neck. Right. And then if you zoom in, you can kind of make out a head shape, which it's almost triangle like, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I hope you guys can see that. Yeah. Okay. But ready for this. This is not the only interpretation of the photo. Okay. I will also add, a lot of people consider this to be a legitimate photo of Nessie. A lot of people do, and a lot of people don't. Because the other alternative explanation, if you guys will zoom out of the photograph and look at it, people claim that it is a double exposure of the loch and a Labrador swimming towards the camera holding a stick in its mouth. Can you see that? It would be looking dead on.
I think I can a little bit. Well, but I guess this gets back to if you're looking what you want it to see, because if you show me this picture and you say, oh, it looks like a weird little Loch Ness monster, sure, why not? Or if it looks like a Labrador shaking its head with a stick, I could kind of see the shape of a dog head in the middle blurred. But now that you mention it, I'm seeing it.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
That's another interesting thing to note about this photograph is that the monster itself is almost like completely out of the water. Like, look at it. I mean, it's like floating on top of the water almost,
Mm-hmm.
which is consistent with Hugh Gray's description of it. Was that it was frolicking and it was thrashing around in the water, but it was also like curiously like buoyant almost.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a quote from Nick Redfern's book. Loch Ness Monster authority Roland Watson has noticed and commented on this curious aspect of the Gray photo. He has suggested the monsters of Loch Ness may possess a form of inbuilt internal buoyancy, something which would allow them to float on the surface in the very odd fashion described by Gray.
Oh,
Mm.
just like the
However-
fact that Bigfoots are always blurry.
Yes.
They're naturally like that.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't know what to make of it. It could be real.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, while we could debate the legitimacy of this photo for a long time, I can tell you a story that's been confirmed false.
Oh,
We're ready to move
Wow.
on.
Spoiler alert.
Well, it is a spoiler alert, but it's
That-
important.
the spoiler is we're
Spoiler.
talking about skyfish today.
No. Are we ready to move on? Can I talk about the good old 1933? I don't want to call it what it is because then that like takes away the element of surprise. I mean, I did already spoil the ending for you, but
Throw it out
Okay.
there. Let's
let me
go.
just tell you what happens, okay? So, December 1933. So, the London Daily Mail hires an actor slash film director slash big game hunter named Marmaduke Wetherell
Hoo-wee.
track down the Loch Ness Monster. After only a few days out at the loch, he reported finding fresh footprints of a large four-toed, soft-footed animal, which he got really hyped about. And he estimated it being at 20 feet long. He did make plaster casts of the footprint, and just before Christmas, he sent them off to the Natural History Museum in London for analysis. So the world was waiting for the museum zoologists to return from the holiday. While we were waiting for this, monster hunters descended upon Loch Ness. Local hotels were fully booked. Inverness was floodlit for the occasion. Traffic was jammed, shoreline crazy in both directions. And the results of the analysis didn't come until January after the holiday when they came back from vacation. And the museum zoologists announced that the footprints were those of a hippopotamus. Now, why would a hippopotamus be walking around Loch Ness, you say? Well, so the footprints had actually been made with a stuffed hippo foot and the base of an umbrella stand or ashtray. So basically, what the zoologists determined was that this was a hoax and that the footprints had been planted, some sort of base, big, sturdy thing with a stuffed hippo foot placed on the bottom was taken around Loch Ness and just footprints were made. However, it was never really clear whether Wetherell was the perpetrator of the hoax or just a victim. People say that with how hyped he was and how excited he was for his discovery, that he wouldn't possibly have been the person to plant the hoax. But either way, the incident tainted the image of the Loch Ness Monster and discouraged serious investigation of the phenomenon. And they say for the next 3 decades, so like the next 30 years, most scientists dismissed reports of strange animals in the loch. Sightings were mostly regarded as hoaxes. Otherwise, they were just blamed on optical illusions caused by boat wakes, floating logs, otters.
Those 20-foot otters out there. Hoo-wee.
Yeah. So this was kind of one of the first hoaxes, one of the first Nessie hoaxes that came into play, which, remember that man, remember good old Marmaduke Wetherell, because He'll come back.
He plotted
Okay.
revenge.
And that's when he blew up Loch Ness. And that's what
No.
we'll pick up in part 3.
Oh
Hooey.
my.
But that was all I got for that specific hoax. Did you guys find any additional details? Am I missing anything? Did I
For
leave
the
anything out?
The hippopotamus.
Yeah, hippo foot hoax.
You said this happened in December.
Mm-hmm.
I think Marmaduke might have been the one to come up with the no, it wasn't Marmaduke. It was invented as a way to make fun of Marmaduke. Was the hit Christmas song "I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas"? All the kids would sing it at him as a way to tease him about misidentifying the tracks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that real?
No.
Oh man, could you imagine just a cherished Christmas song sung around every Christmas, and it's just the biting satire, but the biting of a man who was tricked.
Well, that
Big
song came
diss
out in
track.
1953, so
Oh man.
not quite the right time period.
On his deathbed, Marmaduke Wetherall heard it as it was published in 1954.
Dude, could you imagine though? What if it was made to tease that guy? That would be horrible.
Some of the greatest songs in the world are diss tracks.
Diss tracks. Dude. I Want a Hippopotamus, the hardest diss track of 1933.
Eviscerated the whole man's career.
The next thing that we're going to talk about is probably something that you have seen before. It's the most popular image of the Loch Ness Monster, and it's probably what pops into your head whenever you hear the name Nessie or think of the Loch Ness Monster. It was a photograph taken in 1934. Again, literally probably what's in your head. Like when you hear Nessie, when you hear the Loch Ness Monster, you are probably thinking of this photo. It was sold to the Daily Mail by a London physician named Robert Kenneth Wilson. And his profession of being a physician is why this photo has been come to known as the surgeon's photograph. I do also believe there was a point in time where he didn't want his name associated with the photo, and that's why it was called surgeon's photograph. Go ahead.
Oh,
Eli.
interesting. Yeah. You said he was a physician, huh?
That's the overarching term we're using. Yeah, I think there's a more specific profession that you can name.
Sure. Well, yeah, I'm just saying because he was not a surgeon, and I'll leave it at that. So
Yeah. Go look up this guy's profession. It's kind of wild. And now back to Loch Ness Monster.
Wait, I want to unpack this a little bit more. So he's not a surgeon. He's a gynecologist, right?
yeah, they a surgeon?
I don't
Do they
know.
do surgery?
No, but now I'm wondering. My brain didn't make the connection about how that's not a surgeon.
I mean, I would hope
Right,
not.
Unless I'm confused. I didn't think they were.
I mean, who knows? Maybe it's nothing but heavy surgery.
I don't know. Either way,
I mean, what this was? It's 1934. I keep thinking it's like, I don't know, like 1895. All doctors were surgeons back then.
well, either way, he's some sort of medical professional, and this photo has come to be known as the surgeon's photo. Robert Kenneth Wilson said that he took the picture when he noticed a commotion in the water as he was driving up from London to photograph birds with a friend near Inverness. This photo appears to show the monster's small head and slender neck rising from the surface of the water. And the Daily Mail printed this photograph. And this might not be the first time people started talking about this, but when this photo came out, talks of the Loch Ness Monster being a plesiosaur were like happening everywhere, because that's what this sort of head out of the water type image looked like. And that's kind of all I have on that. If you guys have any additional details, like maybe something he said when the article was published, or if he gives any more details, because really the next stuff that I have is just talking about how for years skeptics weren't sure if the photo was real or if it was somehow a hoax. And then in 1984 the photos started to get like really scientifically analyzed. Do you guys have anything extra about Wilson and what he said when he took the photo?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. So like I said, for years, people weren't really sure if it was legitimate. Like there were lots of talks of, is this a hoax? Is this real? But in 1984, which was many years later, Stuart Campbell, I don't think there's any relation to Alex Campbell from the Inverness Courier.
This Campbell's soup.
Oh,
Stuart Campbell analyzed the photo in a 1984 article in the British Journal of Photography, and he concluded that the object in the water could only have been 2 or 3 feet long at most, and that it was probably an otter or a marine bird. And he suggested that it was likely that Wilson knew this to be the case. So as time goes on, it's starting, eyes are squinting a little bit, and it's more being talked about maybe this is not real. And then in 1994 things really got controversial, and people say it was determined that Wilson's photo was indeed a hoax, but I'll tell you a little bit later why it might not be 100%, or maybe it is. I know. Look at your face is like, what? There's people who think the surgeon's photo is legit. But anyways, I have a hard time wrapping my brain around the series of events that I'm going to explain right now, because jump in if it doesn't sound right or if it seems like maybe I am misquoting something, but I tried to piece this together in the best way that I could from a couple different sources of information. So from what I understand, a guy named David Martin rediscovered an old newspaper clipping in which Ian Wetherell, who is the son of Marmaduke Wetherell, who we talked about earlier with the hippo foot hoax, Ian claims that the surgeon photo was a hoax and that the monster was actually a plastic and wooden head attached to a toy submarine. So then Martin, the guy who found the old newspaper article in which Ian makes this claim, told his friend, former English teacher Alistair Boyd, who had become an avid student of Loch Ness after he and his wife had their own sighting of the animal in 1979. And this is where I'm like, okay. The article was apparently originally published in 1975, and it gained little attention, basically fell into obscurity. I don't know how that's possible. If Ian Wetherell, the son of Marmaduke Wetherell of Hippofoot Hame, is straight up saying, hey guys, this surgeon's photo, this photo that everybody is like talking about, like it's fake. Like I'm telling you right now, it's fake. How does that fall into obscurity? How does that not gain traction? And like, how are people not talking about it? Because
I was like, what happened in December 1975? Was the president shot or something? And
you know what?
it was a crazy news day,
That's a good point. There could have been other things happening in that time that took up more attention. But this article apparently came out in 1975. And it was, I guess, David Martin just happened to come across it in some of his research, and then he told his buddy and whatever. And so these guys are the ones who are re-bringing this article to light. And in the article, well, first of all, Ian, Marmaduke's son and original confessor, he died by the time Boyd and Martin got their hands on this article, but they were able to track down his stepbrother, aka Marmaduke's stepson, Christian Sperling. So there's a lot of names going around. There's a lot of dates happening right now. A lot of connecting of yarn and thumbtacks on a board, on a bulletin board, if you're trying to do this. But Christian Sperling is Marmaduke's stepson in the south of England. This dude was 93 when Boyd and Martin were able to like get in contact with him. Near death, but he confessed. According to Christian, and I was sorry. I'm frustrated because I didn't find the original article that Ian makes this confession in. I wasn't able to find the original article that Ian says, hey, this was a hoax, that apparently came out in 1975. But, you know, we're back here in 1994 and we're talking to Christian Sperling, and he claims that, unhappy with the way that he was treated by the Daily Mail after the Hippofoot fiasco, Marmaduke Wetherell wanted revenge, which is why we were making the jokes earlier about the villain origin story. And he enlisted his son and stepson in the plot. So his son being Ian, stepson being Christian. Christian Sperling was apparently the one who built the model, which was made by, you know, with a toy submarine and head and neck that he grafted. And then they drove up to the loch and staged the photo.
Whoa.
Am I missing stuff? Am I wrong? Please help.
No, you're not wrong. But there's some cool stuff in there. You see, they
Okay.
did it very smart. Okay. So Ian is the one who went out and bought everything. So he bought the wood, he bought
Okay.
the plastic.
Oh, this is
Christian is the one who sculpted everything and
Mhm.
affixed it on top of the submarine.
Okay.
Then they did a test run in a small pond to make sure that it worked. That's then they took it to the loch near the Alt Saw tea house. They placed the sub in the water really quick, took the photos on the low, and then destroyed it.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because they heard the water bailiff approaching.
Oh, really?
Alex Campbell?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Because it says they heard the water bailiff approaching. So Duke Witherall sank the model with his foot.
Oh
And
my
it is
God.
presumably somewhere on Loch Ness till this very day.
That's funny.
So then the photos that were taken on that day were transported by Maurice Chambers
Mhm.
and delivered to Colonel Robert Kenneth Wilson. And he was the guy who sold it to the Daily Mail. So by the time everything was said and done, it had passed hands multiple times.
Yeah.
Nothing could be traced to anyone.
Mm.
Everything was
Oh.
paid for in cash.
Ocean's 11 style.
Ocean's 11 style. So yeah, that's how it went down.
Yeah.
And so do you think it's them who named it the surgeon's photo too, or?
I think that's something to do with the Daily Mail, maybe. I
Oh,
don't know.
oh,
I don't know
ye-
where the name came from.
Because we mentioned it because I'm just thinking, could you imagine it's so these guys got together, they're like, they're the sons of the monster hunter who was disgraced, so they're putting it all together, they're putting the hoax, and then just to cap it off, to put the cherry on the top of the crazy sundae, they say, hey, Daily Mail, we want to give you the gynecologist photo of the Loch Ness Monster.
Good Lord. Well,
Like,
something else to note too, and I don't know if you guys got this, and I'm gonna send this to you guys and put it on the screen because most
Oh.
people know the surgeon's photograph as looking a certain way
Are you
mhm.
about to send a second photo?
of what the actual image is like
The
Because-
actual image?
because it was cropped before it was published.
You're
So
correct.
Whoa.
when you look at the uncropped photo, you're like, wow, that thing is tiny.
I've never seen this uncropped photo before. This is hilarious.
Dude, yeah, it's tiny.
But how do you, I mean, you don't know how big that is. There's nothing to compare it to. I mean, yeah, the shoreline's in the background, but you don't know how far away the shoreline is.
But
Oh,
look, I mean, look how big the waves are.
It goes into like, here's that, like, well, we have the photo by the sons of the guy, and then it's just like it's like a little tiny little dot right in the middle of the
Okay. Okay, all right. So we're laughing and we're having a good time right now talking about how the surgeon's photo is a hoax. It's fake. It's not real. But I have a rebuttal. Okay. Here we go.
It's real.
Not
Oh.
everybody believes Sperling's story. American journalist Richard Smith, for example, notes that toy experts question whether the toy submarines of the 1930s could have performed as described. And he wonders why Boyd, that's irrelevant. He wonders why Boyd waited until after Sperling's death to reveal his confession. I don't know I don't know the timeline there. That this sentence makes me think that the article didn't come out until after Sperling died, but I don't know if that's true. Anyways, most people believe that the surgeon's photo is another hoax. But did you know that there was apparently a second photo that accompanied the first photo, showing a similar head but at a different angle, beginning to submerge with a bent neck? Now, the first photo became well known because it's clear for the most part, easy to make out. And the second photo didn't attract very much publicity because of its blurriness, and little is known about the second photo. It's often ignored by researchers who believes its quality is too poor, and the differences from the first photo are too great to warrant any analysis. So there's people that speculate the second photo is a different model of sorts. So like another submarine, you know how there's multiple props, on a movie.
There's two different King Kongs in the original 1933 one.
Or it was real and it was Nessie.
I think it's that option. Woohoo.
That's interesting.
So
Whoa.
it looks like it's kind of like leaning back and submerging into the water.
Mm-hmm.
But
No, I don't know.
Hmm.
I feel like that could just be the same thing, just toppling over on the side. But that's my very 10-second analysis.
mm-hmm.
The curve looks slightly different, but
Mm-hmm.
like I'm looking at this was 34. It was taken. It's 70-year-old photo.
Yeah, and you have to account for 1934. The photo's taken, and it's like 2 feet tall.
Mm-hmm. From far away.
From far away.
And the second one, it's more cropped, so I don't know if that's if it was like the same distance or the same big mass of water, maybe,
Yeah.
but it's hard to tell.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. Real,
Hey, man.
fake.
I mean, going off of part one, we know that there's countless stories of Scotland of just weird monsters running around in the water. And here we are in part two talking about modern day sightings of weird things in the water. I don't know. It's got to be something to it.
It's all fake.
What if we talked about in the past? I feel like we did an episode recently where we were talking about stories that get put out there to try and discredit the real stories that are out there.
To siphon credibility.
Yeah.
The ninja.
Which episode? Oh, is that? Yeah, it was the ninja. Makes me wonder if with the surgeon's photo, everyone oh no, it's a hoax. It's a hoax. It's a hoax, when it's not actually a hoax, and it's actually very legitimate proof, but we're just told it's a hoax.
Makes sense.
Could be. I don't know.
I mean, I think we should just go back to correcting the wrongs that were made. And this is the gynecologist's photo, not the surgeon's photo.
Well, my favorite thing about our first episode when we talked about the surgeon's photo is we literally say, or Eli literally says, there's extensive articles about it. And then we don't talk about it at all.
Yeah, dude, I know.
Hey, man. What was that? 2018?
Yeah.
It was a different year. You could just say there's lots of articles on it and you'd be fine.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, what we learned is that while the song I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas may have caused the surgeon's photograph, it at the same time helped to save Christmas.
And that's what we'll be picking up in part 3. Nessie saves Christmas.
Dude, imagine. Oh gosh. But I think that really is where we're stopping for today, right, guys?
I think so.
Do you want to keep going?
Nope. Well, actually, yes, because I did say that there was one thing. So I'm just gonna kind of transition us. It's kind of a very general segue. Because in part 3, we're gonna get even more modern with more recent things that have happened over the years, like expeditions and more sightings and things like that. But just to kind of cap off everything we've talked about today, I just wanted to kind of jump ahead into the 1950s, with just some general information about a local doctor named Constance White, who she began collecting eyewitness accounts along with sketches of what the people had seen, publishing them in a 1957 book entitled More Than a Legend. She notes that many of her friends had been subjected to ridicule and contempt, and her goal in writing the book was the vindication of many people of integrity who had reported honestly what they had seen in Loch Ness. So we've talked today a lot about kind of the first witnesses, and then, you know, these hoaxes and things like that. But many of the eyewitnesses that come into the story as years go on are actually seen as sober, level-headed people such as lawyers, priests, office workers, bank managers, scientists, school teachers, students, policemen, fishermen, town clerks, forestry workers, and even a Nobel Prize winner. It was
Albert Einstein.
Dr. Richard Synge for chemistry in 1952. So we'll get more into that next time. I think we'll talk about some more recent sightings, get even more modern. But fun fact, you can buy a hardcover copy of Constance White's book on Amazon for $877.
Oh, placing
Sign
that
me
order
up.
now. Yeah. With that, for a price that much, it's got to have good knowledge in it.
Makes me curious, man. I know Eli is usually the book person, but
Oh, I think the most I've ever paid for a book was like $150.
yeah.
Woo! 800, that's steep, bro. And it's the unfortunate reality is that all those kinds of books, the reason why they're so expensive is because they're out of print.
Mhm.
They don't make them anymore. And so like they become kind of collector's items.
Yeah.
And then what people should be doing, and what I kind of would like to do in the future, is like you buy those books and then you digitize them, or you get the publishing rights, so you republish them so that other people don't have to rely on the Cryptids wiki, you know? Because it's like, okay, so what are you going to do? You're going to pay $800 for a book, or are you going to go to the Cryptids wiki? Most people are going to do the Cryptids wiki, including me, you know?
It's got a Z in it for good measure, you know?
And it's just like, if someone just republished the book for a reasonable price, you
Mhm.
know, Lauren Coleman, I'm looking at you because you've done it before. You did.
I'm sure he listens to our podcast.
Yeah. Hey, what's
Yeah,
up?
I've met Lauren Coleman. I'm pretty sure he already forgot who I am. It's okay. Lauren.
Oh man.
But you
But-
won't forget who we are when we pick up in part 3. Woohoo.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah. So surgeon's photograph was the last kind of big topic that we wanted to hit today, and we will talk more in depth about Nessie and all of her shenanigans next week. I am again going to wait until our final episode to kind of list off all of my sources. There'll be a grand bibliography at the end. I don't know if you guys wanted to share your sources for today at all.
We're all waiting now.
All waiting for what?
We're all waiting till the end.
Okay. I'm starting a trend.
So this is the end. It's been nice to wait for. Well, bye.
Whoa. Well, first you got to know where to check us out.
Mhm.
That's at Cryptid Campfire, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're active on all three. On top of that, check out our website, cryptidcampfire.com. Get yourself a snazzy t-shirt. Check us out on Patreon. $5 a month gets you access to 2 exclusive episodes a month, as well as a wallpaper designed by our very own Alexander Daikaiju.
Yep. And following the trend of this month, I think everyone can guess what the wallpaper will be.
Don Cheadle.
We're doing Skyfish.
Yeah.
You
Just
guys are crazy.
kidding.
Wow.
What would a
Just kidding.
skyfish drawing even look like? They have no form.
That's the gimmick. It'd be a white piece of paper.
And this is the quality you can expect.
And for my next photo, here's the Yeti fighting a tassel worm in the middle of a snowstorm.
Dude, the one after that should be like something fighting underground.
Yeah. And it's just the green piece of paper.
Well, if I want to see what your actual next painting or drawing is, where can I do that?
Well, hello everyone. I'm Alex Daikaiju. You can find me on Instagram at Alex Daikaiju, Alex Daikaiju. I post a lot of monster, cryptid related artwork. I'm working on a lot of stuff right now, so I cannot say what will be posted soon, but I'm sure it'll be awesome. I'll be there, hopefully. I'll list off some of my sources as an appetizer before the main course of part 3's Jasmine's Feast. I would be remiss if I did not use the Dreadnought Wikipedia. I used Nova.com. I also used Busted Halo a little bit. And moving on to Jasmine May With. Sometimes I look up in the night sky and they say there's millions and millions of stars out there, but none of them hold a candle to our very own star, Jasmine May With. Take it away.
Oh, Alex, with the flattering segues always. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. My name is the same on both. It's Jasmine May With, JasmineMaewith.
Woohoo. And to change gears, normally I say something like Eli Watson, best thing since sliced bread. Or I'll say, Eli Watson, anything you can do, he could do 10 times better. But I'll just keep it simple and say, my friend, the Eli Watson, is a cool guy, and I think you should follow him on Instagram and see his photography.
Wow, thanks. Yeah, follow me at the Eli Watson. And I'm going to copy Jasmine's move and wait till part 3.
Ho ho.
I was gonna say, our next merch drop should just be a t-shirt that says the Dreadnought Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, or
In
I only
quotes.
read the Cryptids wiki.
With a Z.
That's it.
Yep. Thanks for joining us for part 2, guys. We're looking forward to part 3 of this multiple night stay in Scotland. On this world tour, Cryptid Campfire World Tour.
Cryptid Campfire.
Yeah, Badam Zinga, baby.
Badam Zinga.
This podcast is a part of Straight Up Strange Productions. Discover more shows like this one at straightupstrange.com.